As the evening light softens around you, let the gentle rhythm of the present fade into the distance, carried away by a quiet breeze. Imagine yourself stepping from the warmth of your surroundings into the misty battlefields and shadowed courts of 15th century England, where the air carries the faint scent of damp earth and the distant clang of swords. This journey will take you through the unlikely rise of Henry VII, from a fugitive in exile to the first Tudor king, his days shaped by the steady pulse of strategy and survival. Tonight, we will explore his early struggles, the pivotal Battle of Bosworth, the consolidation of his reign, and the contrasting life of his royal court, all woven into a soothing narrative to guide you toward rest. Settle into the stillness and let the rhythm of his life begin to ease your mind as we embark on this peaceful voyage through history. As the faint clang of distant swords lingers in your mind, let us step softly into the life of a young Henry Tudor in exile, the year 1471, where the rhythm of survival shapes his days amid uncertainty. Imagine yourself waking in a stone manor along the rugged coast of Brittany. The landscape stretches before you, jagged cliffs under a pale sky, the sound of waves lapping gently against the shore, a sanctuary for a fugitive with a fragile claim to the English throne. Picture his refuge, a modest manor loaned by Duke Francis II, its walls rough-hewn stone, the texture cool under your hand as you trace the cracks. The interior is dim, lit by the flicker of a single tallow candle, the air heavy with the smoky aroma of burning peat and the earthy scent of damp rushes on the floor. His bed is a narrow pallet with a thin wool blanket, its scratchy texture a contrast to the luxury. He might one day know the cold seeping through as he rises, the sound of the wind whistling softly through the shutters. His day begins with caution, a constant struggle to remain unseen. Imagine walking the manor's corridors, the floorboards creaking gently underfoot, your tunic, a simple garment of undyed wool, its hem brushing against your legs. And he moves quietly, his hands steady as he rolls a parchment map, the texture smooth under his fingers, plotting a return to England. The constant struggle is to avoid detection by Yorkist spies, the rhythm of his steps a measured pace, the sound of a servant's soft knock a signal to pause and listen, the air thick with the tension of exile. Food is a sparse comfort in this life. Picture sitting at a wooden table in the manor's hall, the air warmed by a small fire where a simple meal awaits, a hunk of coarse bread, its texture dry but filling, and a cup of weak ale, its earthy taste a quiet solace. The scent of boiled turnips lingers, the steam rising gently, and he eats slowly. The rhythm of his meal a pause to consider his next move. A loyal companion, perhaps Jasper Tudor, joins him, their voices a low murmur, blending with the crackle of flames, the air filled with the faint aroma of the bread. This frugality, a necessity of exile, becomes a quiet discipline, the constant struggle to stretch resources a silent undercurrent. The afternoon brings moments of planning, the rhythm of survival unbroken. Imagine standing by a narrow window, the air cool as he gazes at the sea, the sound of waves a steady companion. His hands trace the map again, the parchment crinkling softly. The air carries the scent of salt and the faint tang of fish from a nearby village, and he dictates letters to a scribe, the quill scratching gently, the texture of the wax seal cool as he presses it. The rhythm persists, a quiet defiance against the odds, the sound of footsteps outside a reminder of the guards posted to protect him. This life carries the shadow of danger. The air grows heavy with the scent of damp wool as he huddles indoors during storms, lives sometimes threatened by betrayal, though we need not dwell on the details. The sound of a horse's hoofbeats in the distance prompts a tense silence, the air filled with the faint aroma of burning herbs to calm his nerves. His dreams are of England, the texture of green fields, a memory, the rhythm of his exile, a test of endurance as he waits for the right moment to act. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a pale glow across the cliffs, he returns to his pallet, the air thick with the scent of peat and the soft hum of the wind. The constant struggle is to find rest, his body weary from the day's vigilance, the blanket offering little cushion against the hard floor. The sound of the sea outside becomes a lullaby, the village settling into silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of the flames. Imagine yourself there, the coolness of the stone easing your thoughts, the rhythm of this fugitive life slowing your mind, guiding you toward rest as we prepare to leave this hidden world behind. As the quiet rhythm of Henry's exile fades into the stillness of the Breton coast, let us gently turn our thoughts toward a turning point in his fate. The Battle of Bosworth, 1485, where the steady pulse of strategy secured his crown. Imagine yourself standing on a misty hillside in Leicestershire, the air cool with the scent of damp grass and the faint tang of metal from distant swords. The landscape stretches before your rolling fields under a gray sky, the sound of wind rustling through the heather, a stage for a fugitive's rise. Settle into the measured pace of this day, and let the rhythm of the battle guide your mind as we explore this pivotal moment. Picture the morning, the air thick with the scent of dew-soaked earth and the faint smoke of campfires as Henry's small army gathers. The ground beneath your boots is soft, the texture uneven with patches of mud, and the sound of horses' hooves clopping softly blends with the murmur of soldiers adjusting armor. Henry, now in his late 20s, wears a simple breastplate over a padded tunic, the metal cool to the touch, its weight a constant reminder of the stakes. His face, framed by a short beard, carries a determined expression, the air around him filled with the quiet confidence of a man who has waited years for this chance. The constant struggle is to rally his troops, Welsh archers, French mercenaries, and loyal exiles, their voices a low hum as they form ranks, the rhythm of their preparation a steady beat. The battlefield takes shape as the day progresses. Imagine walking the ridge where Henry positions his forces, the air growing heavy with the scent of leather and sweat, the sound of banners flapping in the breeze, a soft cadence. The Yorkist army, led by Richard III, looms across the field, their armor glinting faintly in the overcast light, the texture of their shields rough with painted crests. The constant struggle is to assess the terrain, marshy ground to the left, a hill to the right, Henry's hands tracing a rough map on a wooden shield, the parchment crinkling softly. The air carries the distant neigh of a warhorse, and he confers with his uncle Jasper, their voices a measured exchange, the rhythm of their planning a quiet defiance against the odds. The battle begins with a slow escalation. Picture the first volleys of arrows, the air filled with the whistle of flights and the faint thud as they strike shields, the texture of the ground vibrating underfoot. Henry stands near the rear, the weight of his sword hilt cool in his hand, the constant struggle to maintain composure as the clash of steel echoes across the field. The sound of a trumpet signals a charge. The rhythm of hooves and boots, a thunderous pulse, the air growing thick with the scent of blood and mud. His forces, though outnumbered, hold the line. The texture of a fallen soldier's cloak, soft under his boot as he steps forward. The air filled with the cries of the wounded, though we need not dwell on the details. The turning point arrives with treachery and timing. Imagine the moment when Sir William Stanley, a wavering ally, commits his troops to Henry's side, the air shifting with the sound of their sudden charge, the texture of the earth churned by their advance. The constant struggle is to seize the opportunity. Henry's voice steady as he urges his men forward, the rhythm of their advance a surge of hope. Richard III, isolated on the field, charges desperately, the air filled with the clang of his sword against Henry's guard, the metal sparking faintly. The king falls, the sound of his armor hitting the ground a dull thud, the texture of the grass stained beneath him, the battle's rhythm slowing as the Yorkist line breaks. The aftermath brings a quiet victory. Picture the field as the mist lifts, the air cool with the scent of damp earth, and the faint tang of smoke from dying fires. The sound of ravens circling overhead, a somber note. Henry stands amid the fallen, the weight of his crown, a future promise, the constant struggle to secure loyalty now his task. The texture of a captured banner is rough in his hands, the air filled with the murmur of his soldiers, the rhythm of their cheers, a gentle wave. He kneels briefly, the ground cool under his knees, offering a prayer, the air stilling as the battle's echoes fade. The evening descends, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting a pale glow across the field. Imagine returning to the camp, the air warmed by small fires, where he shares a simple meal with his men, bread and watered wine. The texture of the loaf coarse but satisfying, the scent of the fire a comfort. The constant struggle is to plan his next move, the rhythm of his leadership emerging, the sound of a scribe's quill scratching as he dictates a proclamation. The camp grows quiet, the air filled with the soft hum of the wind, the victory a steady pulse guiding him toward London. As night falls, Henry rests on a makeshift bed, the texture of a wool blanket scratchy against his skin, the air still with the scent of smoke and earth. The constant struggle gives way to a moment of reflection, the rhythm of the battle, a memory etched in his mind, the sound of the wind outside a lullaby. Imagine yourself there, the coolness of the field easing your thoughts, the rhythm of this victory slowing your mind, guiding you toward rest as we prepare to explore the next chapter of his rise. As the quiet echoes of the Battle of Bosworth fade into the stillness of the Leicestershire night, let us gently turn our thoughts toward the steady artistry of Henry VII's reign, a time of consolidation that shaped a fractured England, the year stretching forward from 1485. Imagine yourself standing in the dim corridors of Westminster Palace, the air cool with the scent of wax candles and the faint temps of aged parchment. The sound of a distant clock ticking blends with the rustle of robes, a rhythm that guides us into the mystery of his rule, uncovered through records and relics. Settle into the measured pace of this era, and let the rhythm of his governance ease your mind as we explore this quiet transformation. Picture the palace, its stone walls worn smooth by time, the texture cool under your hand as you trace the carvings of royal crests. The interior glows softly with the flicker of tallow lamps, the air heavy with the smoky aroma of burning beeswax, and the earthy scent of oak beams overhead. Henry's throne room is a place of order, its floor of polished tiles reflecting the light. The sound of his advisors' footsteps, a gentle cadence as they approach. The constant struggle is to secure his crown, his hands steady as he reviews a ledger, the parchment crinkling softly, the ink a dark stain marking taxes and alliances. The air carries the faint hum of a scribe's quill. The rhythm of his early reign, a quiet pulse of determination. His financial reforms begin with a meticulous approach. Imagine sitting at a long table in a treasury chamber, the air warmed by a small fire, the texture of the wood smooth under your fingers as you handle a stack of accounts. The scent of leather-bound books fills the room, the sound of coins clinking softly as they are counted by a clerk, the metal cool to the touch. Henry introduces the chamber system, a personal oversight of revenue, the constant struggle to rebuild a war-torn treasury, the rhythm of his calculations, a steady beat. The air grows thick with the aroma of sealing wax, the texture of a royal seal, warm as he presses it into the wax, the sound of parchment rustling as decrees are dispatched to the shires. Alliances form the backbone of his stability. Picture a meeting in a candlelit hall, the air cool with the scent of damp stone and the faint temps of wine from goblets on the table. The texture of a treaty scroll is smooth in his hands, the ink still fresh. The constant struggle to negotiate with foreign powers like Spain and Scotland, the rhythm of diplomacy, a gentle exchange. The sound of a translator's voice blends with the crackle of the fire, the air filled with the murmur of advisors, their robes brushing softly against the floor. Henry's marriage to Elizabeth of York, a union to heal the Wars of the Roses, is sealed with a quiet ceremony. The texture of her velvet gown, a contrast to his simple tunic, the air heavy with the scent of rosewater. The mystery deepens with his suppression of rebellions. Imagine walking the palace gardens at dusk, the air still with the scent of clipped hedges and the faint tang of earth, the sound of a guard's boots, a soft echo. The constant struggle is to quell uprisings like Lambert Simnel's claim. The rhythm of his response, a measured deployment of troops, the air filled with the distant clatter of armor. Records from 1487, uncovered by historians in 2025, reveal his use of spies, the texture of coded letters, smooth under scrutiny, the scent of ink, a quiet clue to his vigilance. The air grows heavy with the weight of suspicion, lives sometimes poured out onto the ground. Though we need not dwell on the details, archaeological insights enrich this tale. Picture a modern dig site near Richmond Palace, the air cool as tents flap softly in the wind, the ground marked with strings to guide excavation. The sound of trowels scraping against stone blends with the murmur of archaeologists, their voices low as they uncover a coin hoard from Henry's reign, the metal cool and etched with his profile. The constant struggle for scholars is to piece together his legacy, the rhythm of their analysis, a steady process of dating and cataloging. The air in the lab, thick with the aroma of preservative chemicals. Recent exposts from August 2025 highlight a ledger find. The texture of the parchment fragile, revealing his frugal habits. His cultural patronage emerges as a quiet force. Imagine a chapel under construction, the air filled with the scent of fresh mortar and the faint tang of paint, the sound of chisels tapping stone, a gentle rhythm. The constant struggle is to fund projects like the Lady Chapel at Westminster, the texture of marble smooth under the mason's hands, the air heavy with the aroma of incense during its consecration. The rhythm of his reign stabilizes, the sound of a choir's soft chant blending with the rustle of robes, the air stilling as his legacy takes shape. As evening deepens, Henry retires to his chambers, the air warm with the scent of cedar and the faint hum of the wind outside. He sits by a fire, the texture of a wooden chair, hard yet comforting, tracing accounts on parchment, the quill scratching softly. The constant struggle gives way to a moment of reflection. The rhythm of his power, a steady pulse, the air filled with the promise of a dynasty. Imagine yourself there, the warmth of the palace easing your thoughts, the rhythm of this era slowing your mind, guiding you toward rest as we prepare to explore the next chapter of his life. As the quiet rhythm of Henry VII's consolidation fades into the stillness of Westminster's halls, let us gently turn our thoughts toward a world of opulence and contrast carried by the soft rustle of silk in a grand chamber. Imagine yourself standing at the threshold of Richmond Palace, the year advancing to the late 1490s, the air warm with the scent of roasted venison and the faint hum of courtiers moving within. This is the royal court, a stark contrast to Henry's early fugitive days, where the rhythm of luxury shapes each day under his newfound power. Settle into the measured pace of this sanctuary, and let the rhythm of courtly life guide your mind as we explore this contrasting existence. Picture the palace, a sprawling edifice of brick and stone, its walls adorned with tapestries depicting hunting scenes, the texture rough yet vibrant under your hand as you pass through the arched entrance. The great hall opens before you, its floor of polished oak gleaming faintly in the light of iron chandeliers, the air filled with the rich aroma of burning oak logs and the subtle Thames of spiced wine from goblets on the table. The sound of a lute strums softly in the background, blending with the gentle clink of silverware. And a long table dominates the space, its surface scarred by years of feasts. This is the domain of the king, a world cushioned from the struggles of his youth. The constant struggle to maintain this grandeur, a quiet undercurrent. The day begins for Henry, now a seasoned monarch, far removed from the Breton coast. Imagine him rising from a canopied bed, its frame of dark walnut carved with Tudor roses, the mattress stuffed with down, its softness a luxury he once only dreamed of, the texture smooth against his skin. His chamber is warmed by a roaring fire, the air thick with the scent of cedar logs and the faint aroma of lavender from a silver bowl on the mantel. He dresses in a robe of crimson velvet, its texture rich and warm, layered with a fur-lined cloak. The softness, a contrast to the coarse wool of his exile days as he steps into the privy chamber. His breakfast is abundant roasted pheasant, its juices pooling on a pewter plate and a cup of mulled wine, the warm spices filling the air as he eats slowly. The rhythm of his meal, a deliberate pause to reflect on his reign. His routine is one of oversight, guided by the court's needs. Picture him walking the gallery, the air cool with the scent of freshly cut rushes on the floor, his boots clicking softly on the stone tiles. The sound of a clerk's quill scratching blends with the murmur of petitioners, the texture of a velvet cushion soft beneath him as he sits to hear requests, the constant struggle to balance justice and favor. The air carries the faint aroma of beeswax from candles, and he reviews a petition on parchment, the ink a dark stain, the rhythm of his decisions, a steady pulse. The court shields him from the plague's echoes, the air purified with burning rosemary, a privilege denied to the villages beyond the palace walls. The court also serves as a social hub, a place where the elite gather to reinforce their status. Imagine an evening feast, the air thick with the aroma of roasted boar and the soft clink of silver goblets as nobles and ladies dine. The table is laden with platters of apples and aged cheese, the texture of the fruit crisp in their hands, and the conversation flows in a gentle hum, punctuated by the occasional laugh. Musicians play a recorder, its notes humming a slow tune, the sound blending with the crackle of the hearth. Servants move silently, their footsteps muffled on the rugs, the air filled with the scent of baked bread from the kitchens. The constant struggle to sustain this opulence, a quiet effort beneath the surface. Yet this elite existence carries its own burdens. The king must maintain his dynasty, his days filled with the constant struggle to arrange marriages for his children. The air sometimes tense with the weight of expectation. Disease touches even this hall, a persistent cough echoing from a servant's quarters. Lives sometimes diminished by illness, though we need not dwell on the details. The rhythm of his life, overseeing feasts, receiving ambassadors, resting in a cushioned chairs, tempered by the need to secure loyalty. The air filled with the scent of incense to ward off unease. The constant struggle is to project strength. His family gathered around the hearth, their voices a soft murmur as they discuss the future outside the palace. The peasant's world continues in contrast. Picture the fields where they toil, the dust clinging to their sandals, the air heavy with the scent of sweat and earth, their stomachs growling from meager meals. Their nights are spent in drafty huts, the sound of the wind a constant hum, while Henry retires to a warm bed, the scent of lavender lingering. The peasants' hands are rough from the plow, their days a relentless cycle of labor, while his are softened by the quill and the reins, his life a steady flow of privilege. This divide, shaped by his rise, defines the rhythm of late 15th century England, a quiet interplay of endurance and ease. The afternoon brings leisure, the rhythm of the court slowing. Imagine Henry sitting in a solar, the air warm with the scent of beeswax candles, the texture of a velvet cushion soft beneath him as he reads from an illuminated manuscript, the parchment crackling softly. The sound of a harp drifts from the hall, the air filled with the gentle strum, the constant struggle to maintain culture amid political tensions, a quiet ambition. The servants move silently, their footsteps muffled on the rugs, the air carrying the faint aroma of roasting meat from the kitchens, the rhythm of their labor, a steady pulse. The evening deepens with a council meeting, the air still with the scent of cedar and the faint hum of the wind outside. He sits at the head of a long table, the texture of the wood hard yet polished, tracing accounts on parchment, the quill scratching softly. The constant struggle is to plan for succession. The rhythm of his leadership, a testament to endurance, the air filled with the murmur of advisers. The court grows quiet, the servants retiring, the air heavy with the promise of rest, the contrast between his past and present lingering in the stillness. Imagine yourself there, the warmth of the palace easing your thoughts, the rhythm of this world slowing as we prepare to draw our journey to a close. As the quiet opulence of Henry VII's royal court fades into the stillness of the night, let the rhythm of 15th century England gently slip away. carried by the soft sigh of the wind through the palace gardens. Imagine yourself stepping back from the grand halls and misty battlefields, the scent of wax candles and roasted venison lingering faintly in the air, the sound of lute music growing distant. This journey through Henry's early struggles, the triumph at Bosworth, the steady consolidation of his power, and the contrasting life of his court has woven a tapestry of resilience and legacy, a steady thread in the fabric of history. The England of his time was a world of hardship and ambition, their days filled with the scent of damp earth, the murmur of council chambers, the smoky air of hearths. His hands, once rough from exile, grew softened by the quill, his life a balance between survival and sovereignty. The shadow of war and intrigue touched his reign, lives sometimes poured out onto the ground. But these moments were softened by the passage of time, woven into the broader rhythm of a new dynasty. Now, as the night deepens around you, let that distant world fade into the warmth of the present. The chill of his battlefields is replaced by the gentle heat of your surroundings, the sound of his court by the quiet of your space. The palace halls give way to the comfort of your own room, where the air carries no tension, and the rhythm of his life blends into a lullaby for your thoughts. Picture the candlelight dimming, the wind outside a mere whisper, and allow your mind to drift, carried by the steady flow of history into the peace of sleep. As this journey ends, let the echoes of his world linger only as a gentle memory, a contrast to the ease you now feel. The rhythm of his rise, the warmth of his court, the weight of his legacy settle into silence, guiding you toward rest. Sleep now, and let the past fade into the quiet night.